Can we take a deep breath? I kind of need one. Should we exhale all the air out? Inhale. Exhale. So, why this conversation? I wanted to start by kind of connecting us all the way out to space and all the way down into what makes us us. Whenever we went out into space for the first time, we saw that we could finally prove that the Earth was a supra-organism. It is life that actually sustains life. And culture as a noun is the thing that we know, right? It's this thing that is about art and community and connection and spaces that help to make us who we are and motivate us. But it's also a verb. It's something that we cultivate and we tend to together. And so I wanted to have a conversation with these three amazing humans that really is rooted in experiencing what it is that this potential could look like. And I think this word education is really interesting because it actually means to draw forth from within. Whereas in the past, we've thought of education as something that you, potentially, especially in the West, is something that you're told. But really, this is alive in each and every one of us. And the way that everyone who's a part of this conversation is bringing that forward is so deeply inspiring. And spaces architect the mind. Ontological design is a perfect example of this, right? Our spaces, our culture, our community, our friends, our inspirations help us to become who we are and who we are becoming. And if you could, Tito, just move Kieran's picture up just a little bit. I just wanted to start us here because I think it's really important to see that it's time to reimagine our society. And it is always the artists, the designers, the creatives who have helped to shape reimagining our story, reorienting to new narratives that can help us move forward. What is our story? What is the legacy that we want to live? And how are we together cultivating that as a community and as visionaries and friends in relationship with all of life? And I wanted to bring in this quote from Bucky that says, "We're called to be architects of the future, not its victims." Because in this time that is so urgent, pessimism is a luxury of a less urgent time. And so that's why we've come together to have this conversation. And so I'm going to do a little quick intro of each of the speakers. So Emily Moody, who you got to hear hopefully earlier from the Regenerative Placemaking panel, is a third-generation Jacksonvillian, returned to her hometown in 2003 with a vision of transformative placemaking through arts and culture. And now as the Chief Experience Officer of the Phoenix Arts and Innovation District, she's driving regenerative placemaking to connect arts, culture, and community, fostering the revitalization of Jackson's North Springfield neighborhood. Marley Benedicto is an artist, intuitive healer, futurist, and planetary steward whose work spans spiritual awakening, women's empowerment, and tangible earth action. Creator of the harmonized vocal activation modality and the founder of Gaia Temple, she activates transformation both in the subtle and tangible realms, including an upcoming 8-week gathering in Hawaii on the Big Island, who we'll hopefully hear about today, and was also an artist from the Design Science Studio Cohort 2, and is a part of our decade-long initiative and quest. Kieran, who I just adore and am so inspired by, also known as Badam Gandhi, is an award-winning artist and activist known for her uplifting, percussive electronic music and positive message about gender liberation and personal power. She's a former drummer of artists like MIA and Thievery Corporation, and has been listed as a TED Fellow, Forbes 30 Under 30 in Music, and BBC 100 Women. And me, I'm a protopian futurist, I'm a regenerative artivist, I'm an experiential producer, I'm a transdisciplinary social sculptor, and I work at the intersection of art, science, experience, and technology to catalyze social and systemic change, to help people learn together so we can regenerate our culture and our planet. Yeah. And so now that we're kind of grounded in who we are and who we are becoming and who we are to have this conversation, I wanted to open with the first question, which is to invite everyone to share some specific initiatives that you're working on that harness art and design to regenerate culture, and also to share a bit about what impacts you have seen so far. And so to start us off, we're going to hear from Kieran, and I have this video that you also want to share. Would you like to play that first? Yeah? All right.
Yes.
Great. Let's do it.
Went to school to see what they are really teaching kids. Seems like making money is the only thing there is. Not to say that being in class is not a privilege, but I would rather take that knowledge and be changing things. Patriarchy.
I've been a producer for the last decade, making music out of synthesizers and drum machines and computers and things like that. But now the idea is really rewilding that process by bringing and sampling the organic nature field recordings into the musical body of work. I'm recording some of the sound of air releasing from the iceberg. It just sounds beautiful. It sounds like crackling. It sounds fresh. It sounds alive. So often, we don't have the luxury of going out and spending long periods of time in nature. But I learned from the pandemic that when we are connected to nature, we just tune into these natural frequencies that exist around us. They make us feel calm, happy, centered. And so as a musician, my goal is to put these musical frequencies, make electronic music out of the sounds that I record in nature, and gift them back to my audience. Not everybody gets to go to Antarctica and to the Arctic Circle. And so I wanted to bring back a gift that creates more connectedness, more connectivity, more empathy and awareness so that it inspires more climate action. I'm interested in surprising and delighting. As a musician, oftentimes we talk about ourselves, using magic, the magic and the gift of music to sort of wake people up and say, oh, what are those sounds? What is that? That's so beautiful. And you're like, it's our planet. It's the rich sound of our planet. So my intention is a little bit of joy, a little bit of perking up, a little bit of gratitude. So much of the culture right now and the cultural zeitgeist, especially with younger people and especially as consuming technology only gets bigger and bigger, everyone complains about anxiety, depression, worry, fear, nervousness, inability to sleep, all of these different things. Well, whenever I spend like 2-3 days in nature, I'm always so grateful at how forgiving and effective it is. I don't know if we can get that from too many apps and tech and all of this. So I sample this work, I put it in the music, and I offer it up as a gift. Yeah. So for me, it was pre-pandemic. It was just quite almost a traditional music career in a way, just traveling and producing and performing. But obviously in the pandemic, one of the safest places that we could be was in nature. And it was such an important inward journey for me, healing, expanding, growing, softening. And so then the more I would sample nature sounds and put them into the music, the better the music sounded. And the process has been incredible, where I take the micro frequencies, in the glacier samples, or making a penguin synthesizer, or an ice drum kit, and making all of the electronic music that I would have made otherwise, but from 100% organically sourced sounds. And most recently, if you go onto Spotify and you listen to the song that I put out called In Purpose, 100% of the music is sourced from the Antarctica sounds. And we featured nature as an artist, which is part of this incredible mission called Earth%. And a portion of the Spotify streaming royalties now go back to the planet. And so that's sort of like closing the loop on the whole thing, which is all you have to do is just go stream the song and you're already contributing something positive. So that's the direction where I'm taking my work, Roxy, to answer your question.
So powerful. I love the way that you have shifted, and you've spoken for the voice of different voiceless kind of members. You've spoken for women, you've spoken for gender liberation, and now you're helping to amplify the voice of the earth. It's really, really important work. Thank you so much. So next I want to ask Emily, and sorry that your name is spelled wrong up here, but Emily, I just wanted to ask you, can you share some more about the initiatives that you're leading in PHXJAX, and like how this is particularly harnessing art and design to regenerate culture, and what kind of impact you're starting to see?
Well, I think for us, murals, some people, might be a little passe at this point, just throwing murals up on a wall, especially developers thinking like, that's my placemaking, that I'm just gonna put a mural up. But for us, it's really become a beautification of the neighborhood. And Tony always says, make sure that the building is lit, make sure the neighborhood's clean, and that changes so much in terms of crime and in terms of making the community feel safer. And so we've actually hosted now 3 different mural jams over the course of the last 12 months, and we'll actually have another one coming up here in the middle of January in Jacksonville. And for me, the impact, even though it's just murals on a wall, it's creating a space where some residents in that community might not feel comfortable walking into a museum, crossing that threshold into this fancy space, but they can connect with the outdoor gallery that's right there in their neighborhood. And people drive by talking about how beautiful and incredible that their neighborhood looks now and how proud they are of it, and having that sense of community that's being built around that really, for me, means so much, and that's why we're doing the work we're doing. But it's not just about the murals. It's about creating, food opportunities for people. It's about creating offices and affordable studio spaces. So that's really kind of the base of what we're working on right now, and trying to grow it from there.
I love hearing about how there's this really keen intention to make sure that the spaces remain affordable for the community, because as it gets safer, as it gets more delightful to be around, often we see gentrification. Yeah. And I know that this is very much an application of the lessons that were learned in Wynwood, even in Magic City where we are now. So exciting to hear how that's already coming forward and how it's baked into the plan.
Yeah, we did actually just launch a nonprofit as well this year. We got our official status at the beginning of 2024, so we've been able to, it's called Friends of Phoenix, and we've been able to gather grants and get other sponsorships and have corporate write-offs that were not available to us as a commercial real estate project, but because so much of what we're working on is social good and philanthropic initiatives, it makes sense for us to be able to access those funds as well.
Amazing. And Marley, I know that you are cooking up some magic in Hawaii. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Well, I think the number one thing here is every single person is an artist, whether or not you call yourself an artist. When we become really present in our life, everything that we do becomes conscious creation, and conscious creation is art, beginning with our life. So during the pandemic, I found myself on the Big Island of Hawaii, luckily blessed to live in a 500-year-old mango grove on an eco-village for the first time. Fresh from Los Angeles, I really got a first-hand impression with permaculture and regenerative living. And since that time, I've been able to go into different fields of regenerative systemic change. And what I've noticed is a huge disconnection. People aren't regenerating their own personal lives. They aren't taking care of their personal health, and they aren't taking the immediate actions that are so simple that we can be doing on a daily basis. So this winter, I'm bringing everybody that wants to come to Hawaii for February and March. It's during whale migration season. And we get to practice the balance of what it is to be a conscious creator in our own life in reciprocity with Mother Earth and nature. And we'll be learning with Indigenous Hawaiians how they connect to the nature so that we can listen to her, so that we can be her true stewards, because her voice is rising as is ours. And it's really up to us to integrate into our daily habits as well as our businesses what it looks like to be good stewards of the earth, because we are truly borrowing this land from our future ancestors. And this is such an exciting moment for us to be gathering, and whether we're artists, whether we're futurists, whether we're scientists, whether we're systems designers, whether we're mothers and fathers or daughters or sons, whatever it is, every single person is welcome to this multi-generational gathering where we have each week world-renowned leaders who are experts in their specific fields, starting with the rebirthing method with Elder Elena Tonetti, helping us go into somatic healing. I'll be leading voice activation, vibrational medicine. Ian Michaels coming from Holos to teach about village creation in partnership with local Vanessa Stone, how to also integrate it ethically with the local cultures. We are going to be inviting the Hawaiians every single week to be a large part of this. There's very generous scholarships to make sure that their voices and their perspectives are included, trying to raise up and bolster authentic Hawaiian leadership and culture outside of tourism. And so you can see we continue to go through everything that we're leading, but really the big week outside of the Hawaiian offering week is spring equinox, spring solstice, spring equinox. We're going to be on top of Mauna Kea doing a huge prayer with a bunch of light workers and systems designers for world peace. So we'd really love you to be there, whether it's for 1 week or 8.
Beautiful. I really appreciate the way that you're very intentionally working with Hawaiians and not colonizing the approach by like having gone and spent so much time and at least very deeply intending to be a reflection and a respectful kind of integration into the culture there and invite people to touch the earth, to be with the land, to listen to the voiceless, to amplify those messages. It's so, so special. So I cannot wait for everyone to experience this, and I know how beautifully you've been weaving for so long. So we started a few minutes late trying to get Kieran on, so we'll be able to still wrap as planned. But I did want to kind of share a little bit about how I am, and with literally hundreds of other people, supporting art and design to regenerate culture. And so the Design Science Studio, which we are a educational and cultural incubator and community of practice, really rooted in looking at how by making behavioral change through tending to and evolving our culture, we can really be the seeds to support the evolutionary potential that we all have as a species to really reimagine the way that we're in relationship with the planet and to become deeply in reciprocity with it. And so it's grounded in, and Tito, if you can help me scoot Kieran's beautiful face down or up a little bit, in comprehensive anticipatory design science. So this is actually a framework from Buckminster Fuller. And so comprehensive is about starting with the whole. Anticipatory is about looking ahead. And then we're designing with intention and actually discovering through experience. And doing this in community. And sorry, Tito, I invite you to, you just have to keep scooting Kieran around. You're just our, you're our like marionette on the stage. So it was very much rooted in, look, it's you, Marley, in how do we actually embody regenerative design? We build the capacity of the system. And what is the system that I'm rooted in, that Emily's rooted in, that Kieran's rooted in, that Marley's rooted in? Very much is a system of artists and culture makers and designers and creatives. And so by creating a space and a community of practice, it becomes easier to actually do this work and say, how do we direct our creativity to facilitate a more just, both socially and environmentally, and regenerative future that works for all? And so this practice helps get us there by mimicking nature. And so we have this curriculum that is really about really drawing forth, looking at, if we're going to create a world that works for all, what does that actually even take? What are the kinds of perspectives and practices from the inside out and the outside in? What are the wisdom keepers and the people on the ground and the voice of the earth that we need to listen to and explore and integrate to actually get there? And we learn and we practice that together with a community that's also connected to a network of amazing partners and mentors like Tony and Future of Cities and so many of our friends who have said, okay, like this is a node inside of a bigger movement. And so how do we work and cross-pollinate across systems to get there? And then we weave and we showcase and we amplify and we come together to actually help get this work into the world and get these stories seen and told and help change our narratives. And so that's really what the Design Science Studio is rooted in. And it's done a lot of good. It's really incredible. We've had 462 innovators, so almost 400 of those are just the artists and designers. The rest are visionaries and educators who have come through, 72 countries from around the world represented, 290 projects were incubated and launched, and over like almost $340,000 were given in scholarships, which is unbelievable. It's primarily folks who self-identify as being from a marginalized community, which I think is really powerful, because those are the voices that we need to support the most. So with that, really thinking about how culture shapes behavior, and that in turn shapes society, and society, well, systems are made of people, and so we're regenerating systems by shaping society and changing culture. And so now that we've kind of talked about our insights together and the different projects that we're working on, I just wanted to invite us all to share from the perspective of your visions of the future, and where by doing this regenerative capacity building work to support the creative in every single person to help transform culture at scale, like what is that invitation that you would extend forward to make that vision a reality? And so maybe Marley, do you want to start?
I could talk about this forever, so come find me if you want to talk about it. But first thing is educate yourself. Educate yourself. If you see a problem, figure out why it's a problem and let it wake you up. And then let yourself stumble into the solution. And as you stumble into the solution, you will become the waking solution that then in such a natural, organic way, you get to impress that in the field of people and experiences around you. Because, we're really good at manifestations and affirmations and asking for all those material things. But what if everybody started manifesting clean oceans and air and healthy soil and trees? It works the same. We are a frequency reality, and that's how we come into material. So use that same knowing that you have, that we are creators and we can create this. And then we get to just watch how our bodies embody it. It's part of the mystery and ecstasy of being alive. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we know it is going to happen. So education, I believe, is one of the fastest ways, and that's why I'm so grateful to have been part of the DSS studio. Yeah.
Thank you, Marley. Yes. And that drawing forth, it really is. You find the thing that resonates with what you know is true. It's really, really incredible. It's like finding words for something that you didn't have language for, and all of a sudden it's there, It's also this harmonizing work that you do. It's totally that. Emily.
I mean, for me, I would say just start small and grow from there. We started at Phoenix with very minimal infrastructure in place, and now we, like I was saying before, if you heard the other panel, have our first adaptive reuse building online. And it's better to just start than just be too scared to start too big. You can always scale up, but I think starting is half the battle, and challenging yourself and putting yourself out there, it can be scary and it can be, very challenging, but I think that's where you need to be when you're trying to push a project forward.
That's such good insight. It really can feel overwhelming whenever you want to do something massive and you don't even know where to begin. You just kind of begin.
When you have 8.3 acres and you're like, what building do we start with, and where do we go from here? What's being programmed? But if you kind of chip away at it, and then it doesn't feel like such a labor, it's more a labor of love, I guess.
Yeah, either 8.3 acres or a front yard, and turn it into a food forest for your neighbors, just go for it. All right, Kieran.
I love the contributions from my fellow panelists. It's brave and it's activist and it's the truth about oneness. I think more listening. May we listen more to one another. May we listen more to the planet. That's my main advice as a musician. More listening, less noise, less chatter, less talking, more listening, more bravery. Awareness of the planet, awareness of one another is inevitable. And so each of our businesses, each of our life paths, the sooner we start, the better, because it's inevitable that we come together on this. I think it's also important for us to pay attention to our heart space. What softens us? What do we care about? And how can we feed and fuel that more in our careers, in our work, in our life's mission? So, more listening is what comes to mind for the moment.
That's so beautiful because so much of your work is music based, you know, and that you're in this reciprocal cycle now with like listening to the earth and then responding and making that available as a gift to others. Like I've listened to some of your music from your previous albums, and like I put that on repeat. I'm like, yes, like it's that like battle cry to be like, okay, we got this. We can take care of each other. We can take care of the planet. Like it's really, really one of the biggest responsibilities for anyone who has the opportunity to have a voice, a platform, a stage, even if it's at your dinner table or if it's on like a stadium with 50,000 people. Like to choose carefully because these are ripples. Have you ever seen one of those water droplets that gets impacted by our environment? This is the same thing. So like be careful with what you bring in, and that like being in a deep reciprocal, nourishing, and also like sensitive relationship is actually in some ways, embodying another way to be, as in some ways almost like a rebellion to the quote unquote the way things are not the way things have to be. And I want to ask us as we're closing, like, can you imagine your future, your thriving future, our thriving future on a healthy planet? And the truth is that, like, we're facing a crisis of imagination. And a lot of this is rooted in colonization and practices that have told us to behave, to be a certain way, that we can't do this or that. But really, like, we truly can. We are all infinitely creative beings. And so we have to practice like a muscle to imagine beyond what we think is possible, into the plausible for ourselves and for each other and for the world. My dear friend Alixa Garcia says, creativity is the antidote to destruction. When we create with intention, our creations become the invocation, and the space inside and between us becomes the sanctuary. So thank you all for creating this sanctuary. Thank you for inviting us to learn, to educate, to start, to listen, and to imagine together so that we really can move towards a world that works for all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.